Okay, I think we're on live. Okay, it's 2:30, a couple minutes after. Let's see here. Just making sure I've got everything set up properly. I should. And waiting a minute or two, I think, to get people logged on here. Anybody here yet? And if you are here, can you hear me? Ah, Jennifer. Hello, Jennifer. Hello, Rhonda. Hello, Michelle. Okay. Glad you could join us today, Michelle. Okay. Let's see here. I see Suzanne too. Hello, Suzanne. Hi, Debbie. Oh, great. We're having some people get on. I was kind of wondering if many people would be on here today because there are so many of these live demos going on today. I was just watching Gwen Youngblood and she was running over a little bit, and this isn't her usual time, so she had a change in schedule this week. So I'm thinking a lot of people that watch me watch Gwen also, so I hope they can join me. But you know, all these demos going on almost on a daily basis. It's like, how do you get your life, how do you go on with your life when there's all these things to watch? I know you can replay them, but it seems like there's an awful lot of them out there, which is wonderful. We could all stand to learn new things from different people, different techniques. Okay, well, I guess I will go ahead and get started. Hi, Diane. Diane and Diane, two Dianes. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Today I am going to present tiny little dishes, and today's version is just the raw version of the dishes without any decoration on them other than being hammered. And by decoration I mean enameled, which is a whole nother animal, which is fun. But I don't know. Maybe I will present that in the near future. I'm not really sure. Not everybody has kilns, and I know a lot of people torch fire, and I don't think these are suitable for the torch, but for a kiln, absolutely. So I may tackle that depending on the interest. Okay, so I'm going to turn the camera down and show you what I have compiled here. Okay. And let me know if the angles aren't right or whatever. I will try to keep up with comments, but if I miss it, I will try to look back later. But anyway, here are some of the things that I have done. We're going to address these today. These are some that have enamel on them, and they're really cute. And they're a lot of fun. But like I said, it's a whole nother process other than these. So today we'll work with these. And I have a couple of different sizes. This is a 3-inch and this is a 2-inch. It's amazing what difference an inch makes. This one I think is like 2.5 inches, but you can make them whatever size you want. I happen to make these this size because I'm going to set these aside for a minute. I made them this size because I happen to have a Potter pancake dies. I have Potter pancake dies in the 3-inch circle and the 2-inch circle. And given a choice, if you have a press, this is a great way to go. It's pretty easy. You just stick your copper sheet in there, and this isn't the right size for this, but you'd stick your copper sheet in there, take it to the hydraulic press, and punch it out, and there you go. And you just have a small little tab that you have to sand off at the bottom, which is not a big deal at all. But anyway, that is an option if you have a press. If you don't, which I would suspect a lot of you don't, you can use a circle template, which this particular one that I have, the largest it goes is 2¼ inches. However, they may make them larger, but you can also use other round objects to get your shape. And one example is a can. This is almost exactly 3 inches around. So what you can do for that is on a piece of paper, you can take that and a fine marker, a fine Sharpie marker, and you can just trace around the can and get your circle and cut it out. That's pretty easy. So I had already done one. This one's got the circle already drawn on it. And then the next step would be cutting the circle out. And you need metal shears for that. There are several different types of metal shears. This is a pretty conventional metal shear. And then there's another one that looks like a pair of scissors. And these are also metal shears. And I like these quite a bit. They are relatively inexpensive. I think they're $10 at the most for a pair of these. These aren't much different, really, maybe a couple of dollars more, but you can find these on Amazon very easily. Also, I will have a handout at the end of the broadcast, and it will have references of, I've already got one printed out. It'll have references on where to buy some of this stuff. I don't have every single thing listed on here, but quite a bit, and it should get you going, at least if you don't have some of these materials. But there again, if you have questions regarding some of the materials, just let me know and I will try to get that information out to you. Okay, so I will go ahead and get started, and I already traced my circle like I said, but I think I'm going to do one, I think I'm going to do a 2¼ one also. And well, I don't need the paper for that. I just need my metal. I'm using 22 gauge copper sheet. You can use 20. 20 is okay, except it might be a little bit tough to cut through the metal on 20 gauge because it's a little bit thicker. However, you can anneal the metal, and that will help, that'll soften it, so that way you can cut a lot easier with that. You can also use 24 gauge, but I would recommend using that if you're going to enamel. The reason I say that is because I put quite a few layers. You have to enamel the back as well as the front, and they get quite thick and kind of heavy. And sometimes when they have too much enamel, they'll warp a little bit too. So I would just use 24 gauge if I was going to enamel. That's plenty thick enough. They'll be nice when they're done. I think this one was a 20 gauge, and this sucker it's really heavy. Both of these are kind of heavy. Also, when you do the enamel ones, and I guess you could do it on the copper ones too, you can kind of flute the edges a little bit, kind of make them a little bit different, different shapes, which is kind of fun. Let me see, of course. Well, here's one that's a little bit different. It's not quite rounded. It's got some different little curves on there, but it's kind of fun. So you can do that also with the copper, just the bare copper too, if you want. All right, so let me just get this 2¼ inch. Yeah, Michelle, these are I think like a knockoff of the Joyce Chen scissors. So If anybody has the Joyce Chen, those are great. Those are a little pricier than these, but I think they're probably a little sturdier and more substantial in the long run. But these work great. For the money, they work great. Okay, so I'm going to draw my circle on here. And cut it out. And always be careful because these copper edges get pretty sharp. So I guess I should put my eyeballs on there. And cut, if you can, on the outside of the circle of the black line. And try to cut as evenly as you can. It's not imperative, but sometimes having a steady hand is a little bit difficult. But we're going to file these edges when we're done. But you see, I'm not using that much hand strength to cut this 22 gauge. So that's good. And I'm just going to cut that piece off because it gets kind of weird to have all of that excess there. And to continue to cut. I normally try to conserve my copper as much as I can. Oh, I went inside the line on that. Oh well. You know, so that I don't have a whole lot of waste if I can avoid it, or at least have another usable piece from the excess for something else. But today I kind of just am using what I had handy. And if you do a pretty good job cutting the circle out, you'll have less to file. So that came out pretty good. And see, I have this piece left over, and I'll just trim off those 2 points, put the little pointy parts in a box, and put them in my copper scrap to a recycling center. And I got like 30 or 35 bucks for that box of scrap, so that I just turn that into buying new copper. So save all your little bits, it adds up. Okay, so I'll set that to side, and now I have my piece to sand. I have a few options of how to sand this, or what to sand it with. Just a regular emery board. I don't know the grit on this, but it's probably, this is probably a 220, but I think a little bit more aggressive would be better, like maybe a 180. So you got that. You have the standard metal file that you can use. This is a number 4 file. I like this one for a lot of things. And this is my new toy. This is a Zona brand, Zona, which will be on the handout. I saw Melissa Muir using this in one of her demos a week or two ago, and I thought it was pretty cool because it comes with just one strip when you buy it, and I think it was like 10 bucks, 10 or 12 at the most. But you can change out the strips, and it's really easy to do. And you can buy the sanding strips in different grits, individual grits, a package of each one, or you can buy an assorted pack. And I bought the assorted pack, which I've only tried a couple of them so far, but it's pretty nice. These come in a 1-inch width and also a 1.5 inch width. And this is the 1 inch. And I think it's going to serve me pretty well. A lot of times you've seen people that use like painters, the paint can stir sticks, or well, I guess that. And then they put a piece of sandpaper over it, and then like a rubber band on one end and a rubber band on that end. And those work okay too. But I just thought this was kind of convenient. So I thought I'd pass that information on also. So I'm just going to sand up the edges a little bit just so that they're not real sharp. Well, I don't want them sharp at all. I have a wet sander in my laundry room that I use primarily for this type of work, and it really shortens the work time a lot and sands it nice and clean. And because it has the water running on it, dripping on it, it keeps your hands from burning from the hot metal, from the friction. So, but you know, for something like this, a sanding stick or a file is just fine. Just check your edges. I always kind of go over the backside and make sure that I get all of that, any little rough bits off of there. Okay, so it's not like 100% perfect circle, but it's close enough, and it's fine for the project that I'm doing. Okay, so that one's sanded, and I guess I should go ahead and sand this one too. Yeah, Jennifer, the paper is tight on here. It's really nice. You can slip that on. You have to unscrew this thing. You just unscrew it and pull the paper out, put your new strip in there and tighten it all the way as tight as possible. And it doesn't go anywhere. As long as you put it in properly, it doesn't slip. The other thing that is pretty important to have is, let me show you here, this dapping block right here. This shallow, it's just a shallow wood dapping block that most of, I would say most of the jewelry tool suppliers carry these. I also checked, and Amazon carries them as well. It seems that Amazon carries a lot of things that we use as makers, but they tend to cost a little bit more. So if you can find a better deal somewhere, I would say go for that. Okay, so that's actually not bad. Okay, so let's see here. Well, I'll just use my apron. Why not? Okay. All right. Okay, let's get rid of that. Okay, let's see here. Oh, Wendy, I'm jealous. You're sitting by the lake watching the demo. How nice. How absolutely nice. Okay, I was just checking to see if there's any questions up to this point. Okay, so we have this. Also, I want to mention this block, this dapping block. This is a little bit larger than the standard dapping block. The block that it comes with a wooden punch and or a dap tool, whatever you want to call it. And these are fine for small circles. These can accommodate a little bit larger. And this one actually is about the same size as this one in the bowl, which is the smallest of the four here. And it's a good size for the really small bowls or a larger pendant, like say, like this size here. And oh, I wanted to point out too, I use primarily 2 texture hammers to make my designs, and it's usually just the embossing texture, which is the round points on here, the round ends on there, which gives that little hammered texture look, which I really love this look. And then I tried, just for the heck of it, I did the flat line embossing hammer. And I like that, I think, equally well. The thing with this one, though, is I used the hammer on this before I shaped it. So I wasn't really sure if I would get the same effect if it was curved. So I've yet to try that, but I did do this one on a flat. I hope I didn't confuse you by saying that. Okay. Okay. All right, so I'm going to, so you've got a couple of different embossing hammers. You can use anything though, really. I mean, if you have metal design stamps and you want to stamp designs all over it, you can do that. And you would do it now before you start doing your shape. And then you need something to hammer in the bowl, a hammer. So there's like this rubber, well, I don't know if it's rubber, but it's some kind of material like that. And then there's a nylon hammer. Or you could use a chasing hammer too, because it's rounded, but it's so wide that you might be more limited. I think going with one of these is really the better choice. So, okay, so I'm going to put the 3-inch piece in the bowl. That one is really, I'm going to get messages now. Okay. Sorry about that. And if we lose the broadcast like we did just like for a nanosecond a few minutes ago, just stick with it and hopefully Facebook will reconnect. And if you have trouble getting back on, if you get kicked off and you aren't seeing anything, then try to get out of the group and then come back in, and you should be able to get back onto the demo. Okay. All right, so I'm going to take my hammer and just start, well, actually I should start in a larger bowl. Lots of noise. That starts to make the curve, just slight, but it starts. Then I'm going to go into a little smaller bowl. Get these, any wrinkles on the edges, get those pounded out. And then I'm going to take it to a smaller bowl and I'm going to hold it a little bit sideways. Okay, now I'm going to use this little guy here. we're getting a bowl shape. Well, not really a bowl, but kind of a little dish. And I will still keep, whoop, wrong end, working with this. I like to have the bottoms a little bit flat, and that's not always easy to accomplish, but I would try to get it to sit flat rather than teetering around, but I'll use my metal block for that. All right, so I'm okay with this at this point. It's kind of beat up, but I guess that's just what happens. I'm going to take my metal block, and I can see that it's not exactly even, but that's okay at this point. So right now, I'm going to use my texture hammer, and I'm going to just start adding the embossed little dots in there. So you start. You should hold your hammer too, like down here towards the end, so you have more leverage as opposed to some people will grab their hammer and come up here, but this is a better grip to have. So I will just do this. It takes a while to get them all on here. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask, and then as I'm pounding, I will look and see if there's anything I can answer. This will pull it out of shape just a little bit, but then I'm going to put it back in that wooden bowl and round it out again. But I love how this hammered look, how this texture looks. Catches the light real nice. And you can put as many little dings in here as you want. Just depends. You could also decal the edges if you wanted to do that. And by that, I mean, if you don't know what that is, I would use my chasing hammer, the ball peen end of that, and I would just hammer against the edge, and that gives it a really nice sparkle too. That's a nice look. I like to do this on a lot of my pieces. I just like the look of it. I think it looks more finished. It also hides some little edge imperfections if you have any of those. So I'll get back to this guy. Hang on just a sec. Okay. These also make, I mean, I use them in the studio for lots of different things. I saw Francesca Watson uses her she puts her soldering, her solder and her flux sometimes in these things and has them dedicated. And I think that's a great idea. But these are cute little dishes to put like on your bedside for rings if you want to do like a little ring dish, or you could put one in by the kitchen sink. If you take your ring off when you do your dishes and stuff, you could just place them around the house. I think they're just really cute. And adding the enamel really kind of spices them up too. Doing this distorts it a little bit, but it's not bad. I will be able to fix that when I'm all done. And yes, your hands do get tired. I would say after you're doing this for a little while, you might want to just flex your fingers, shake your hands out a little bit, give them a rest for a few minutes, and then you can get back to it. It's always good because, hand fatigue can be a real problem. And it's good to take care of yourself and give your hands a rest when they need it. I watched a demo. I think it was a YouTube demo that a guy was doing a big copper bowl, and I was just amazed at the work that he put in that bowl. It was just gorgeous. I would drool to have the tools that he had to accomplish that, but that was like a real bowl manufacturer type deal, so that's not going to happen in my world. But it was fun to watch. And there's probably other videos out there of people doing it different ways than what I'm doing, but I kind of just experiment and do things, and they're not always necessarily correct, but they work for me. And I don't want to teach you guys bad habits, but there's no reason not to watch what somebody else does, and then you form your own decision on how you want to do things. But there's that saying, there's like 9 different ways to skin a cat. That's a horrible saying, but you know what I mean by that. Different means to an end. Okay, I'm just trying to make sure that I've got pretty much all the areas covered. How much you do it is your choice. Okay. So it looks pretty well hammered. This dish, the gauge, this one is 22 gauge, Dana. Okay. Yeah, and I do have references on where you can buy some of these tools. So I will share that with you when I'm done here. All right, so now I'm going to put this back in the dish. And I'm going to try to straighten out the areas that got misshapen. It doesn't seem to affect the embossing that I've done. You probably could anneal it if you wanted to, well, I don't know if you really needed to. It, you know, pounding on it like this does work hard in the metal, but it's moving. I mean, being that it's 22 gauge, it's still moving pretty well. And sometimes, well, you could do it a couple different ways. You could take your bench block and hammer the center to try to flatten out that bottom. And you can also turn it over and just hit around the center a little bit. Oh, and now my phone's gonna ring. Okay. That's the problem with doing these on your telephone or on your phone, because you can't avoid some of these interruptions. That's actually not bad. It's got a little wiggle. It just depends on how much you want to futz with it. But I would prefer to have a more level bottom. There are different kinds of forming stakes also that are usable, are handy. You know, it just depends. If you have some forming stakes, you can use those. I'll see here if I can turn the camera around just a little bit. This is one such forming stake right here. This has got like a little bit of a rounded edge, you know, so I could put that on there and, you know, hit around there to help round it out a little bit. Could do that. And then there's also a flat one, a little round flat one. These are mini stakes, and I think I got them, I either got them at Frets or Contenti, one of those two places. But I thought that these would be handy to make with these, to use these dishes. And I don't have the Frets stake holder. I've got the knockoff brand. I think it was Eurotool or whatever, the knockoff brand of the little mini stakes. But of course, the shanks are cut differently, so these don't fit in that. But my husband, under great pressure, made me this little wooden block and drilled a hole in there so that the stake will fit in there, and then I can use that. So he does little things like that for me, but reluctantly. No, he's actually a pretty good guy and pretty handy. So, but that really helps. But you can accomplish, I'll put it back here. You can accomplish that on your steel block too. Might be just a tad easier with the forming stake. All right. You know, it's not perfect, but I'm okay with that. I think that looks pretty good. Okay. All right. So you can see the difference. Well, this one I haven't embossed yet, but this was actually a 2 1/4 inch that I cut out. This is a 2 inch. So there's a little bit of just a little bit of difference, but it depends on what you want to use them for too. You know, if you're going to use them like Francesca does with the solders and stuff, I think she dedicates, she writes on the little dish the solder that she uses. Like she'll put an S for, or a E for easy, and M for medium, and H for hard. I think that's kind of neat, you know, to dedicate it like that. If you did them in enamel, you could enamel those letters on there too, which would be kind of neat. But then, you know, they're pretty much dedicated for that. Okay, so this is basically done. I am going to make sure that my line, my Sharpie line, is off. And just take some 4O steel wool, and I'm going to stick it in the liver of sulfur. I did not mix that yet, which is right here. I like to use the liver of sulfur gel, and I have a little crock pot. And where is my stick? I have a little craft stick that I just kind of dunk in there and get a little bit of liver of sulfur on it. Mix it up in the water. And I'm going to stick the dish in there and splash myself. That didn't feel good. Okay, I'll close that up. Close up that stinky stuff. Get my tweezers. Push this stuff around a little bit. I like to work on these foam craft sheets that I get like at Joann's or Michael's. They're like in the kids craft section. I like them because I think they provide a nice gripping surface when you're working on things. Okay, let me get my paper towel here. Cover up that stinky pot. And you know, when you're working with the liver of sulfur, you might want to wear gloves. My hands get messed up on a daily basis, and I really should wear gloves, but that's just one more thing to do. So, all right. So I'm just going to work on this. I've got my 4O steel wool. And I suppose you could seal these if you wanted to. You could probably use some Renaissance wax on there if you wanted, or you could spray them with an acrylic spray. But I kind of like them the way they are, natural, and they'll patina naturally. If they get too dark, you can always take the fine steel wool and give it a little polish, and it takes it right off. Okay, so that's patinaed, and I want to see if you can see this close up a little bit more with the lines. So there's the little dots, and here's the lines. And I just think that they're really cute. So that's basically it as far as just making them with the metal. You know, if you were going to enamel them, of course you wouldn't have to hammer the textures. You would just leave them at this state. This is just domed a little bit, and you could put your, usually what I'll do is put liquid enamel, like a white liquid enamel, and put that in the kiln and fire that. I think it's like 2 to 3 minutes at somewhere around 1460, I want to say, degrees. And but you need other equipment. You know, you've got to have the little racks to stick them on. You've got to have the fork to get them in and out of the kiln. You know, for safety's sake, you that sucker gets really hot, and you don't want to get any closer to it than you have to. So there is some equipment involved in that, in the enameling, but it's great fun. And like I said, if you want to see me do that, I can do that at another time, because I'm not all set up for it here. It takes a considerable amount of stuff. So, oh, and Hilda, I don't know if you're watching right now, but I know you had asked me about the colors that I used, and I wasn't sure. You said a blue, and I'm thinking that maybe this was what you were referring to. And if it is, the lighter blue is, I'm guessing, but I'm pretty sure that it is sky blue, which is the color number is 1610. It's an opaque. And then the darker blue that I used on here is also an opaque, and it is Wedgwood blue, and the color number is 1540. So Chrissy, I think, I have to verify it, and I will do that afterwards. But I want to say it's 1460 degrees for 2 to 3 minutes, something like that. But I'll verify that for you. But you have to give these a fair amount of coats. I do the first one in the liquid enamel, and then I move over to the 80 mesh enamels and sift those on. So it's kind of a crapshoot sometimes of what you're going to get, but there's a multitude of different enameling techniques. So you can do a lot of different things, or random little dots of color. With the liquid enamel, it's great because you can scratch in designs and then add different colors on there. So lots of things to keep you busy. All right, Nancy, you're asking, if we torch enamel, do we counter the enamel? You can counter with any color you want. I will say though that there is an issue with the points that you're putting on those little enamel trivets. When you put these on there, they make little well, they're like little gouges, but it's really just the points where the enamel has melted, and then when you pull it off, it kind of leaves those little marks on the back there. There's probably a way to correct that, but I really don't know how to do that. So maybe somebody with more experience would be able to answer that. So now this one, I really didn't get any of those little marks on the back. So yeah, the counter is pretty much whatever you want to use. I think on this one I used red. On this blue one, it's just what I guess was available when I was doing this. So anyway, okay. Oh yeah, Gina, you worked with me doing it? Okay, I worked along with you and now have 2 tiny dishes. I'd love to see you enamel them as well. Okay, well, I'll put that on the list of things to present. I was thinking that I would still do the fold forming next week. I'm not certain. Nothing's written in stone. But we'll see. Maybe I'll do this instead. Who knows? All right, guys. Kind of short and sweet this week. Last week I know was like almost 2 hours. What is counter? Counter means the enamel on the opposite side of what you're enameling. You can't just enamel the top. It will be too heavy, and the enamel could crack that you put on the top. So you have to kind of balance it. It's like you should put as many layers on the bottom as you do on the top. You might get away with a little bit more on the top than the bottom, but you really need to have it countered. Have some on top, some on bottom. It's a strength issue. So. Okay, well, I'm glad you liked it, Michelle. Okay, I'm reading your hand. Okay, good. Good. You know, I mean, a lot of this stuff I fly by the seat of my pants. I do watch other demos, and it's amazing the little tips that you can pick up when you think that you know something, you know, a certain technique, and you think you know all the ins and outs. You find out, well, at least I do. I always find out there's something I didn't know, and I think it's wonderful. So keep on watching, and yeah, Suzanne, there's lots to learn. There's every technique has so many different things, and it's fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and you can watch this again on replay if you want. Is there anything else I need to say before I say goodbye? Well, thank you, you guys. I mean, I try, you know, I try to explain it as well as I can. Sometimes my words don't always come out exactly the way I want them, but I think you get the gist of the things that I'm doing. And I will put the handout on the page in just a few minutes. And if you have any other questions, you can always ask me on the group page. The group is growing, and we can always use more members and more activity on the page. I'd like to see more stuff happening. I'd like you to post your things that you do. So if you do some little dishes, please post them and share with everybody, because I think it's inspiring to us all. Okay, so Carol, I think I'm going to be doing fold forming, just a real basic. Oh, let's see if I have it here. I did a couple of things. Yes, I have them right here. These are not patinaed, but there is a leaf with just one line of fold forming, and then this heart has just got 2 lines of fold forming. But I did this one on, well, I actually did both of them. I put a pattern on with the rolling mill first before I cut the shapes, and then did the fold forming bit. So I think I will still. Sometimes I'm torn whether I should put patina on things or not. Sometimes I like shiny, and sometimes I don't. So I guess it just depends on the project. But these probably would look great with the patina on them as well. So that's what I have planned for next week. But if I see that a lot of people really want to see the enamel dishes, maybe I'll do that. So I don't know. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the page on Facebook, and have a good week. Take care. Bye-bye.